Hi everyone, here is a story about being a daughter-in-law of a rich family. Please listen.
I don't know where the fortune teller is, but thinking about serving a madman day and night makes me want to go crazy too. Are you sure you want to marry a madman? That house has an eldest son too. What are you thinking? The eldest son of that family is planning to settle abroad. You think I didn't do my research beforehand? Don't think you can easily fool this Juan. You might have fooled my father, but it will take a lot more to fool me. The sound of footsteps approached. A middle-aged man walked in from the door. What are you two loudly discussing again? You always have to make noise in this house before I can accept, huh? Come in and see your daughter, Dad. She's saying she won't get married. I'm not going to marry a madman, Dad. Juan. Who said you're marrying a madman? Do you know? Juan quickly interrupted her father. Do you know that marrying into that family is a blessing, right, Dad? Well, that's right, dear. Then do you know if there's a mentally ill son in that family? Okay, I know. Getting married there is no different from marrying a lunatic. It's still unclear who you will marry. In short, I do not agree to this marriage. Don't force me too much, or I'll bite my tongue and commit suicide for you both to see. Juan. If I say I can, then I can. She pursed her lips. Oh my, do you dare to die like you're scared? Don't challenge me. He raised his voice louder. All right, calm down. Just calm down. Still not enough of a headache? They are about to come see you now. What are you planning? You've already received the money, and the investment contract has been signed. If you back out now, you'll lose everything. See? I know it's all because you instigated my father, as he loves me very much. It's because your father is running a loss-making business, that's why it has to be this way. Why blame me? Dad. I can't accept this. Juan, just agree to it, okay? We can figure out the details later. Dad, you're funny. Marriage is a lifelong commitment. Talking about it later is not possible when your youth only lasts a few years. Besides, I'm only 20 years old, I still have to study abroad. If you want to find someone to marry instead of me, go ahead. Her eyes lit up as she slowly asked, Are you saying to find someone to marry you instead, Juan? Yes, that's right. Fine, I'll help you find someone, but don't regret it. He interjected, No, you can't. If someone finds out, we're done for. Oh, come on. Those people haven't even met Juan, how would they find out? Really? Don't worry. I'll handle it, but we need to arrange for Juan to study abroad for a few years. Dad, my school is currently accepting students for studying in Italy. Why don't you send me there instead? Let's see how it goes. It's 6 in the evening now, little New must have returned home by now, said the grandmother. What do you mean? Juan and her father asked in unison, nothing more. I plan to have her replace Juan in marriage. But will they agree to it? The man asked, whether they agree or not, they will have to. Isn't it the family over there that advanced Nu's 1 year's salary or something? Consider it as loaning money and immediately incurring debt. Juan smirked, relieved. That works too. That girl is almost as pretty as ours, let's say it won't tarnish our family name. The grandmother quickly changed clothes, grabbed her purse, and hurried away. Hey, take me to Nu's house. Do you know the way there? Yes, I do, madam. But why do you need to go to her house, madam? If I asked you to take me, you should just do it, stop asking so much. So nosy. Yes, madam, wait for me to get the motorbike. The road is narrow, cars can't get through there, madam. Because cars can't get through, I mentioned a motorcycle. Even if cars could go there, it wouldn't be your turn. Wait for me, Mom. No quickly ran into the warehouse to bring the Derm motorbike out to the yard, and his mom frowned slightly and shook her head. Why is the bike so ugly? No scratched his head and chuckled weakly. I can't ride the boss's scooter. It's okay. Hurry up, we're running late. The bike jiggled on the flat stone road and turned left onto the bumpy dirt road. Mom sat behind No, constantly complaining. What kind of road is this? How could the local government leave the road like this? Boss. This road connects to the neighboring commune. I heard they often shift responsibility to each other. And this area is all farmland, with limited transportation, so people don't care much, that's all. Or if you have money, you can invest in it. Oh, this guy. Why should I invest? I'd rather use that money to make myself look better. Besides, I don't have extra money. We're almost there anyways, right? There is that lady in front. The car stopped in front of the old rundown one-story house, with a flock of chickens and a few ducklings in the front yard. The lady hesitated as she got out of the car, rubbing her belly as she walked. Knowing that, were the bees' nest slippers. The cost of a pair of designer slippers. No, let me call to see if anyone is home. Alright, you go ahead and call, can't be me calling again. No called out loudly, is anyone home? From inside the house, through the bamboo curtain, a woman peeked out from the gate. Mistress Jung, eyes wide in surprise, knew, oh knew. See who has come to our house. The lady frowned slightly and spoke up. Would you like to come inside? Yes. Please. Please come in for a drink. The lady walked in first, No followed behind. Passing through the curtain, they arrived at the water drinking table. Glancing briefly around the house, everything was old and worn out. The living room had a small set of table and chairs, and a bed. Nu's room was at the end of the house. Her mother quickly pulled a chair for the guest. Please have a seat, she said. Coming from behind was a petite young woman with fair skin. Most striking were her big round eyes and heart-shaped rosy lips. She briskly asked the guest, "Are you here to see me? You just got back and already missed me?" I'm her father. I'm here to discuss something with your parents. Please sit down, the guest said. The polite girl gestured for her to sit next to the guest. Being sharp, she could sense that the guest must have something important since she came all the way to her house like this. The guest solemnly asked her mother, "How old is Nu this year?" "I'm just 20, ma'am," Nu answered. "In the countryside, this is a good age to get married," the guest said. Nu replied, "But I'm not ready to get married yet." "Oh, this child," the guest remarked. "When adults are talking, you should sit quietly and listen." Her mother gave her a gentle tap, signaling her to be silent. The landlady continued, "I have a very good place to recommend for the little girl Nu. I noticed she is quick and honest, so I thought of introducing her there." The girl's mother hesitated. "Thank you for your kindness, but she is not ready to marry yet, and we are not keen on marrying her off early." The landlady's expression changed as she said, "But what if this marriage is necessary?" The girl's mother and Nu looked at each other, then turned their gaze towards the landlady. "What do you mean, landlady?" "To be honest, last time you borrowed 60 million for the Blossom's annual salary, and then you borrowed another 50 million from us, totaling 110 million Vietnamese dong. So, right now, my family needs the money, so arrange to pay me back now. I don't need the Blossom's salary anymore. Calculate it however you want." "Madam. Is it too sudden for you to demand like this? You know that my family recently suffered losses in business due to the bird flu outbreak, and even if we sell our entire house, we still won't have that much money. So, your debt is bad, right? If it's a bad debt, I'll call the police to come and arrest your whole family. I heard that your husband is sick with some kind of kidney disease. Madam, please give us a few more days." Tearfully, "Wow. Now you need money, so you come to ask for more time. Why didn't you ask for more time when you borrowed the money? Is what you're doing any different from forcing someone into a dead end? Now you realize it?" Sitting beside her mother, witnessing all that, she couldn't bear it any longer. It's clear that the woman is intentionally making things difficult for her family. The key issue here is that she wanted to set her up but failed, so she resorted to playing dirty and demanding debt. She placed her hand on her mother's arm and calmly said, "Mom, please stay calm. My dear, where can our family get such a large sum of money now?" She looked straight into the landlady's eyes and asked, "Landlady, just say whatever you want me to do. Do you want to repay the debt from my parents now?" "Mom, here's the deal. Now you will marry into the Trangia family in place of Duan. I will clear your family's debts, and you will live a wealthy life. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. That's no different from telling me to sell myself. Your value is already high. Besides, I'm telling you to get married, not to be a prostitute." She kept silent. Her mother glanced at her, seeming to agree with her eyes. "So, or is your answer yes, dear? There is no other choice, dear. But, make up your mind quickly. Everyone gets married, what more could you want?" The mistress said, "If there's a good match, it's not my turn." Nu replied, "Go ask around the village and the neighborhood to see how prominent the Trangia family is." Her mother grabbed her hand in surprise, tears falling as she spoke. "Dear, please agree, consider it as us owing you a lot. Mom. I've grown up to be who I am today because of both of you. If you want me to get married, then I will, Mom." "Don't say that, Mom doesn't want to but has no choice." The boss shook her head. "All right then. So, have you decided to marry him? If you have, come with me now, the groom's family will come to see you tonight." "Nu, wait. I can go with you, but you have to write a debt forgiveness letter for my family." "This little brat. Do you think I would deceive your family when I'm just a child? There's also my integrity to consider." "Integrity is cheap these days, ma'am. You told my family to lend money, and now you want it back just like that. Seriously. Parents are so clueless to give birth to such a conniving child. So are you going to write it now?" "Yes, I'll write it. Bring paper and pen here." Holding the debt forgiveness letter, she tearfully handed it to her mother and choked out her words. "Mom, please keep this debt clearance document safe. When I go over there, I will take care of myself, so please don't worry at home." With the debt settled, you told Dad to work less, to eat well for a quick recovery from illness. As for Tai, if anyone asks about me, tell them I am studying in the city for his happiness. I'm leaving now. I will stay in touch. Turning away, she wanted to cry like a child, but fearing her mother's sadness, she held back, trying to appear strong. On the way to the Dung family's house, tears kept flowing down her blushing cheeks. She forced a faint smile at her fate, dreaming of a happy, loving home, now all fading like a mist. She didn't even care about her future husband, thinking if he wasn't foolish, then he would not be wealthy, and if he was wealthy, his mind wouldn't be normal, so it was her turn to be the mistress. Now she just sighed and accepted that as long as her loved ones are peaceful and happy. Arriving at the Duong family's house, the hostess repeatedly reminded her not to call her by mistake. Now they were essentially her parents. She was taken to the dressing room, dressed in a white princess dress belonging to Duan, her hair gently curled into waves. Standing before the mirror, she did not even recognize herself, never imagining she could be this beautiful. It was true that silk made one beautiful. Night fell, the quiet space in the lonely night felt eerie, the wind gusts rustling the leaves, the dim moonlight shining down on the streets, the tall houses side by side, a strangely peaceful feeling. The clock struck 11 at night, yet there was still no sign of the Duong family, causing the old couple to anxiously fidget. "Are you sure the family will come tonight?" "I'm sure. They say they will come, and they will." As soon as he finished speaking, 2 black cars slowly approached from afar, then stopped in front of the gate. The driver hurriedly stepped out to open the door for the person in the back seat. A woman around 50 came out of the car, dressed in a black dress with a thin silk scarf over it, exuding extreme elegance whether from afar or near. Following her were 2 other women and 2 men. So, there were a total of 5 people. Mr. and Mrs. Duong looked at each other with joy on their faces, nervously walking over to invite everyone inside for a drink. The woman faintly smiled, while one of the men behind her placed the gift bags on the table. He is the owner of Duong Tam Company and she is the lady of the house. Very pleased to meet both of you. Yes. My husband and I are also very pleased to meet the lady. Let me introduce myself to you both. I am the second Mrs. Tran Gia. Today, with the authorization of everyone in the Tran Gia family, I came to see little Duong at your house. If you agree, I can arrange the engagement ceremony and take the child with me tonight. Actually, I am very busy with household chores and don't have much time to travel around. I see. What about the wedding? That will be considered later if everyone in the family agrees. Yes, sure. Wait for me a moment, I will go call Duong out here. She's still a bit shy. All right. You go ahead. She stepped into the room, calling the girls softly. Why are you still standing there? They're here looking for you. Then let me out. Remember what I told you before? Yes, I know. She smiled and walked into the living room, approaching the two ladies and respectfully greeting them. Good evening, madam. Oh, this young lady seems quite lovely indeed. Not bad at all. Thank you very much for your kind words, madam. How old are you this year? I am 20 years old. Let me see, in that case, you are a good match for the young master in the Tran family. I approve of you. Thank you, madam. She secretly hoped that the lady didn't approve of her. After that, the lady placed an envelope on the table and spoke. The road was a bit inconvenient, so we didn't have time to buy ancestral offerings. Our grandparents bought them for us and asked for family members to help the two of us. It's getting late now, so I asked to bring the child over there to rest in time. As for the wedding, we will discuss it later. All right, we asked the family over there to take care of and watch over the child. If anything is not right, please discipline them directly, said the grandfather. Mrs. Duong saw this and pretended to hug the girl tightly. While you are there, remember to take care of your health and call your parents regularly. Mom and Dad miss you very much. She saw her perform quite well, so she responded spontaneously. Yes. Mom is also very healthy. Two cars were following each other on the long and peaceful road, passing by the reflection of the house of Mrs. Duong, which was getting farther and farther away. She was sitting at the back of the car next to Mrs. Hai. The air inside the car felt stifling, and she didn't know what to say because she was afraid of revealing her true identity with a mistake. But Mrs. Hai seemed sharp and clever, glancing at her from time to time while sitting in the car. Duong, you're here, she suddenly said. From that moment on, she had to remember she was Duong. Madam called you? It's fine to call me mother too, Mrs. Hai said. Yes, I understand, she replied. You seem gentle, that's why I reminded you. The head of the family is my husband's grandmother, followed by his father, then me, Mrs. Ba, and Mrs. Tu. In the Tran Gia family, there were 3 grandsons, Tran Gia Min, Tran Gia Long, and Tran Gia Hung. Tran Gia Hung was already married with 2 children, while Tran Gia Min and Tran Gia Long remained single. She furrowed her brow, muttering, oh my, why do so many generations live together in one house like this all the time? So, in the end, is she going to be the wife of Tran Gia Min or Tran Gia Long? She quickly asked her grandmother. Grandma. So, who is my husband? You will find out when you get home. The important thing is to let the elder lady decide which cousin you match with. The eldest is cold-hearted, the second is a bit unstable but cheerful since he's still young. I never knew that marrying off a rich family's daughter could be so peculiar. It seems like there is nothing enjoyable about it. I thought that becoming the daughter-in-law of a wealthy family would involve a fairy tale wedding. But it turns out to be no different from other people's homes. I don't know how happy or miserable it will be, but hearing from different social classes has already made her slightly chilling. She sighed lightly for her drifting fate. Every time her eyes narrowed from drowsiness, although she noticed her grandmother still being awake and alert. She dared not sleep first to avoid being impolite. Oh, dear parents, never has she longed to arrive quickly like this before. She is so sleepy that she can barely stand it anymore. Sitting in the car for nearly 3 hours, the car finally stopped in front of a large mansion. The stern red wall under the yellow light caught her eyes, and the magnificent house resembled a majestic palace. Everything that met her eyes made her alert. She had never thought of a mansion as grand as a royal palace. No wonder the hostess claimed that their wealth could last for 8 generations. Thinking about the hostess, she felt something fishy. She was known to be money-minded, so having someone as sweet as her choose her was indeed a strange and unbelievable thing. Lost in thought, the voice of a middle-aged woman startled her awake. "Come inside, dear." "Yes." She got out of the car. A middle-aged woman was standing at the gate waiting. "Has the hostess arrived already, ma'am?" She smiled and introduced, "This is Ju-on. She's been a maid in this house for some time." "Hello, ma'am." The woman bowed in front of her. She waved her hand in response. "Oh. You can call me Ju-on. Calling me like that makes me feel uncomfortable." Mrs. Hai spoke sternly. "This is the rule of this house. Absolutely no one is allowed to disobey." Mrs. Hai's authoritative tone made her slightly scared. Clearly her expression completely changed from before. She could only softly reply, "Yes. All right. Take your aunt to the resting room, she must be tired. Be present at 5 a.m. tomorrow at the street to meet the old lady and everyone in the house." The middle-aged woman led her through the back door of the house. This house is truly vast. If you walk around a few times without guidance, you probably won't remember all the doors. She only remembered that from the entrance gate to her room. She passed by a pond. It seemed to be a lotus pond. She could faintly smell the fragrance of lotus flowers. Stop in front of a room around 24 square meters. The door opened. Inside everything was neat and tidy. It was even more beautiful than many rooms of Miss Ju-on in Mrs. Duong's house. The gentlewoman said to her, "This is your room. Please rest here." "Thank you," she replied softly. "No need to thank me, it's my duty," said the woman as she bowed before her. "Have a good rest," she added before turning and walking away. She sighed softly, closed the door behind her, and felt a surge of sadness within her. Despite feeling very sleepy earlier, she now found herself unable to sleep. She walked over to the window, gazed up at the star-filled sky, and was surprised to see a tall man across the room looking down at her. Their eyes met briefly for a few fleeting seconds. Startled, she averted her gaze, shook her head a few times, and when she looked up again, the man was nowhere to be seen. Ghost. Could it be a ghost? If not a ghost, then an illusion? The person who disappeared as quickly as a flash had vanished as if they had never appeared. Out of curiosity, she glanced around to search for the man's figure, but the deep night revealed no trace of him. Yes, she should try to sleep, as there will be many things waiting for her tomorrow. She couldn't show up looking tired with dark circles under her eyes. Ack. She was about to close the window, but the voice and the appearance of the man in front of her made her jump, her heart wanting to leap out of her chest. The man, quite handsome, was smiling in front of her, but his smile was not like that of an ordinary person. "Huh, you lose, huh?" she asked him puzzledly. "I lose? It's nighttime, let's play hide and seek." Hide and seek is so fun. "Who are you? Why are you still awake so late?" "Let's play hide and seek with Jia Long, come on." Jia Long, could it be the Jia Long that Grandma used to mention? Ah, now I understand. Ju-on is afraid of marrying someone abnormal, so she asked you to stand in for her. She looked at him carefully. He doesn't seem bad, except for the unsettled spirit. Everything is fine. He's about 175 to 178 centimeters tall, square face, high nose, and his eyes. Wait a minute, those eyes look familiar, as if I've met him before. Yes, they must be the eyes of the person in the black shirt earlier. She stared at him. He suddenly grabbed her hand. "Let's play hide and seek," See who can find Juni's body first. Who do you mean by body? A dead body? Before she could finish her sentence, a young girl ran up. Thank goodness, there you are, we've been looking for you. Why didn't you sleep tonight and came here like this? No. I want to play hide and seek, want to play hide and seek. The girl turned to look at her with shyness. Sorry for bothering you, ma'am. I will take your son to the room now. Oh, it's okay. The girl took the boy's hand and pulled him forward. He hesitated and didn't move. If you don't go, I will tell Auntie over there. Are you scared of her? Scared. Scared. Don't tell. Don't tell, said in a panicked voice, then follow me to the room, okay? Before leaving, the boy turned back to say to her. Tomorrow evening, let's continue playing hide and seek. She stared blankly at the distant figures of the two and then turned back towards the white bed. Lying down on the bed, she began to think about Jia Long, the boy, and who knows, he might be her husband. Lost in thought, she slowly drifted into a sleep without even realizing. Knock, knock. Knock, sister, are you awake? The sound of knocking on the door accompanied by the call made her jolt up. She sat up, eyes half closed, looking around the room, suddenly remembered that she was at the Tran Jia's house. Her voice still sounded sleepy. Who is it? Come in. The door opened, this time it was just her niece. It seemed she was carrying some clothes. Sister. I brought clothes for you. Oh, I am still very young, only 20 years old, we might be of the same age. By tradition, I have to address you as sister. Is it necessary? Seems strange. Yes. It is necessary. Grandma sent me here to serve you. What about the other lady last night? Oh. She is the housekeeper of this house. Oh, I see. Sister, change clothes, and then lead me out to the street. The old lady doesn't like anyone being late, and besides, you are a new daughter-in-law, all right. Thank you. By the way, what is your name? You can call me CUC. The lady nodded, straightened up, turned around, took a step down from the bed, each step feeling sluggish as if devoid of any vitality. Holding the dress in her hand, she silently thought her mother-in-law must have a good sense of aesthetics. The light pink and very elegant dress fit her figure perfectly. CUC led her through 3 hallways from the street, introducing each room meticulously to prevent her from getting lost. When they reached the room's entrance, she saw an old lady over 80 years old with white hair sitting in the middle, whom she guessed was the old lady. In the front row on the right was a middle-aged man, very elegant, whom she thought was her father-in-law. Sitting across from him was her mother-in-law. After that, she was unsure which was the third or fourth lady. And the young man. Back then, she didn't know if he was the eldest or the third brother. The person sitting next to him was probably his wife and child. All those eyes were now staring in her direction, making her feel like a tardy student. She took a deep breath and relaxed her body a bit, stepping lightly inside. She bowed politely to everyone. In her eyes, she pretended not to know anyone. They say ignorance is bliss. Grandma stood up from her seat and approached her, taking her hand. Introduce yourself to my grandchild. This is Grandma, the head of the Tran family, she said softly, bowing her head politely. Good afternoon, Grandma. She nodded in response and handed her a red envelope. This is for you, her grandmother said. And this is your grandpa. Hello, Grandpa, she greeted with a nod. Here is your great-grandmother. Hello, Auntie Mom, she said. Your name is Juan, right? Such a beautiful little girl. Thank you for the compliment, Auntie Mom, she replied. This is Auntie number 4. Hello, Auntie 4, she greeted with a faint smile. Hello, dear, her aunt replied. This is Uncle Jia Hung and Auntie Jia Hung. Hello, Uncle and Auntie. Hello, sister-in-law. Welcome to the Tran Jia household. She sighed softly to herself, realizing she still didn't know who her husband was to greet everyone correctly. The elderly lady spoke up. "Please sit down, my dear. No need to be overly polite." "Okay. With your permission." She had just sat down when a man in a black vest approached from afar. Oh my, from childhood until now, she had never seen anyone as handsome as him, with cold eagle-like eyes, a straight tall nose, and lips as red as a girl's, overall looking like a perfect sculpture. Seeing him, the grandmother happily stood up and said, "Jia Min. You're back." He coldly greeted everyone, "Hello, everyone. I'm back." She noticed that besides the grandmother and her husband being visibly happy, there seemed to be a certain fear in everyone's eyes, a sense of awkwardness that wasn't there before he appeared. The second grandma said, "Why did you come back without notifying us to welcome you?" "Surprises are more joyful, second mom," he replied. "Grandmother, all right then. Let's continue this conversation later. Now, let's have someone prepare food for the child so he won't be hungry." "Hold on, grandmother. The matter isn't finished yet. What else is there? You haven't mentioned who this girl will marry." Grandma looked surprised at Jia Min, who had never cared about marriage and family matters before. This time, he took the initiative to ask first, which greatly surprised everyone in the house. "Jia Min, do you like this girl?" Grandmother asked. He glanced at her and faintly smiled. "It's fine. Oh, I see. If you agree, then that girl will be married to you and will be your wife in this house." The girl widened her eyes as she looked at him, thinking he might be handsome, but his cold attitude was detestable. To her surprise, he coolly uttered a sentence that left her speechless. "Then let's agree as grandmother said. This girl will be your wife." It is true that rich men are different when choosing a wife. They pick a wife faster than buying fresh vegetables in the market. After looking at him for a bit, apart from that cold attitude, everything was perfect. His demeanor exuded the aura of a high-ranking noble. She secretly rejoiced a bit, not knowing why she felt happy, but at least her husband was completely normal-looking, even outstandingly handsome. Everyone smiled and congratulated warmly, but who knows what they truly felt inside. Jia Min sneered, putting his hands in his pockets and walking ahead, followed by his grandmother and everyone moving towards the dining room. As she walked, she thought to herself that the house was too big and inconvenient. It felt like walking for miles just to get to the dining room. If she got hungry on a day like this, she might just faint. Wow! Is it necessary to have so many dishes for just breakfast, really? She glanced at the table, filled with expensive dishes. She recalled that Mrs. Jung's family was wealthy and only dared to spend money on such dishes occasionally. From Nem Song, Cha Fuang, Yen Sao, Baungu, to 6 Ka, oh my, with this kind of food, when will we ever lack nutrients? Everyone took their seats as a habit. Feeling a bit confused, she unconsciously looked up and saw Jia Min looking at her, then glancing at the empty seat next to him, she nervously moved closer. Normally at Mrs. Jung's house, she would stand and serve food, but today there were servants serving everyone. Mrs. Jung looked at her and Jia Min, then smiled and said, "Both of you, eat a lot. Good health is needed to pass down the family line to the Tran Jia's grandchild." Her throat tightened, still unsure why her grandmother seemed to insist on having a grandson. Before she could speak up, Jia Min next to her interjected. "Grandmother, please eat more to stay healthy and strong to carry the baby, all right? Rest assured, I'm just worried that you might not have the strength to carry later on. Your words should match your actions." "Yes. I think when choosing a spouse for Tran Jia, you should consider carefully, right? Honestly, nothing can escape your sight. Let's have breakfast together." "Yum yum yum. It's breakfast time, little ones." Everyone turned to the door, where Jia Long's younger brother was happily walking in. Following him was the maid from last night, running and looking flustered. "Brother, we are having breakfast over there." Seeing Jia Long, his grandmother's expression changed slightly, seeming a bit displeased. She said to the maid, "Why did you let him run around without having breakfast yet?" The maid's face turned pale as she replied, I prepared food for him, but he ran down here straight away. I couldn't catch up to stop him." At that moment, the father-in-law spoke up. "It's okay. If the child is already here, let him sit and eat." His mother said, "Go get another chair for him." "Yes, ma'am," the maid responded. Jia Long was arranged to sit across from her and Jia Min. She stole glances at Jia Long, who sat at the table, eating with his head down and a silly smile on his face. His laughter sent shivers down her spine. Today, she noticed carefully that he may seem crazy, but his eyes were dangerously sharp. She felt that this man was far from simple. Grandma said to her, "Juan, keep eating." Even though this boy is almost 30 years old, his soul is no different from a 5 or 6-year-old child. "Don't worry about it." "Yes, Mom and Dad," she gently replied. After breakfast, everyone went back to their rooms, except for her, who Grandma called back and said, "Juan, you will follow me." "Where are we going, Grandma?" "You will know when we get there. In this house, it's best to not ask too many questions." After saying that, Grandma led her to a wooden room. On the door was a sign that read, "Tran Family Study Room." In front of the room was a beautiful courtyard of peonies. Upon opening the door, there were 4 rows of bookshelves and black and white photos hanging on the walls. In the middle of the room was a framed family tree. Grandma led her inside, where everything was designed in a classic architectural style reminiscent of ancient kings and queens era. On the bookshelf were many old books neatly arranged, including a section dedicated to Confucian texts. Grandma spoke slowly. "This is the study room of the Tran family, where important records and documents from ancestors are kept. Once you marry into the Tran family, everyone must know about it but cannot enter freely. As a daughter-in-law of the Tran family, you must be aware of the rules." She pointed to the wooden frame on the left side of the room. Upon a quick glance, there are at least 30 rules, among which she briefly read a few: stepping into the Tran family, live as a Tran family member, die as a Tran family ghost, unity helps each other according to abilities, preserving the family's reputation and good traditions, everything follows the principles set by our ancestors. This is necessary to maintain the honor and order of the family, avoid discord, jealousy, and ensure unity. As a member of the Tran family, you must prioritize the interests of the clan over personal interests to always be worthy of being a descendant of the Tran family, added Grandma Hai. Grandma used to say, "It doesn't matter whether everyone wants to hear it or not, but a daughter-in-law like Tran Jia must be obedient, walk lightly, speak softly, smile gracefully, and follow the rules in the house. Good behavior will be rewarded, otherwise, there will be punishment, which is heavier than one can imagine. In Tran Jia's house, one can learn gradually what they don't know, but what they know must be understood. Bearing children to continue the family line is an important task for every daughter-in-law. If there are no signs of having a girl within a year, the husband is required to divorce." Juan. Do you understand? Reading the rules and listening to Grandma made her feel dizzy. It seems being a daughter-in-law in a wealthy family is truly never simple, and it's surprising that in the 21st century, such a system of one husband with multiple wives still exists. She took a deep breath, but her face showed that she was learning very well. Grandma used to say, "It doesn't matter whether everyone wants to hear it or not, but a daughter-in-law like Tran Jia must be obedient, walk lightly, speak softly, smile gracefully, and follow the rules in the house. Good behavior will be rewarded, otherwise, there will be punishment, which is heavier than one can imagine. In Tran Jia's house, one can learn gradually what they don't know, but what they know must be understood. Bearing children to continue the family line is an important task for every daughter-in-law. If there are no signs of having a girl within a year, the husband is required to divorce." Juan. Do you understand? Reading the rules and listening to Grandma made her feel dizzy. It seems being a daughter-in-law in a wealthy family is truly never simple, and it's surprising that in the 21st century, such a system of one husband with multiple wives still exists. She took a deep breath, but her face showed that she was learning very well. From afar, Jia Min inadvertently caught sight of her. In a brief moment, her radiant smile and captivating beauty gently stirred his heart. Soon after, he turned his head and walked in the opposite direction. His assistant asked, "Are you not going to the women's office anymore?" "No. I want to go outside for a bit." "Get the car for me," he replied. Behind her, CUC approached and startled her as she turned back. "Mom, why are you standing here like this? Have you forgotten the way back to the room?" "Oh my goodness, this little one almost gave me a heart attack. I came to ask you because I was afraid you might get lost." "No. Mom is admiring the lotus flowers. The sun is rising high, yet you're still standing there admiring the lotus. Come on, go back to the room before you get sick." From afar, Jia Min inadvertently caught sight of her. In a brief moment, her radiant smile and captivating beauty gently stirred his heart. Soon after, he turned his head and walked in the opposite direction. His assistant asked, "Are you not going to the women's office anymore?" "No. I want to go outside for a bit." "Get the car for me," he replied. Behind her, CUC approached and startled her as she turned back. "Mom, why are you standing here like this? Have you forgotten the way back to the room?" "Oh my goodness, this little one almost gave me a heart attack. I came to ask you because I was afraid you might get lost." "No. Mom is admiring the lotus flowers. The sun is rising high, yet you're still standing there admiring the lotus. Come on, go back to the room before you get sick." CUC quickly put her hand on her mouth. "Aunt, don't say that. If you have to, speak softly so others won't hear and cause trouble. It's fine for good people, but if bad people hear, it could become a big issue, especially with the Tran family. The most beloved by Madame Tran is the eldest son. He is very talented, and the success of the Tran family today is partly due to his leadership in the company for the past decade. Did you know that when he was 22, he held the position of CEO of a large corporation? Oh, he's really talented? I didn't know. Thank you for reminding me, CUC. But speaking of which, what does the Tran family do to be so wealthy, CUC? Real estate, land. Hotels, supermarkets, bars, everything is related to the Tran family. So, real estate. They also trade luxury cars, Aunt. Wow. She was amazed and speechless. Speaking of which, now I remember, that's why Madame Duong said stepping into this would be a step up, but if she knew you were marrying the eldest son now. Tran Jia Min, would she ever rise up in rebellion? She pondered quietly. Auntie. Auntie, why do you seem lost in thought? Oh, nothing. Huh, when will someone spend all that wealth? In life, some eat without a limit, while others struggle to survive. CUC's face fell, and she slowly spoke. Auntie, you are luckier than me, born into a relatively wealthy family. In my family, my father drinks, my mother gambles, and with so many siblings, there is no hope left, Auntie. Actually, listening to CUC say that, she also feels a bit luckier than CUC, although her family is very poor, at least her parents are loving and hardworking. Then suddenly she thought, if unfortunately this identity is exposed, she doesn't know where things will go. Well, now, just go with the flow, wherever it takes her. She turned to look at CUC and said a few encouraging words. Don't think too much, CUC. Everyone is born with their own destiny. Keep trying. Yes, Aunt. Thank you for encouraging me. Now I'll go finish my work. Okay then. As CUC walked away, her grandmother knocked on the door. Duan. Yes. Who is it? It's me, Grandma. Can I come in, dear? She hurried to open the door. Mom, please come in. Grandma smiled as she walked in, holding a bag in her hand. She placed the bag on the table and then sat down. I brought some forest honey for you. It's good for your health to drink honey in the morning. This is pure forest honey made by your grandmother, she said. Oh, I can't accept such a precious gift. You should keep it for yourself, replied the daughter. At your age, you need to take care of yourself a lot, Unlike me, who is as strong as a bull, I can even carry tens of kilograms of rice at home. She realized she said too much. Grandma looked at her with round eyes. The daughter scratched her head and awkwardly corrected herself. I meant, at your age, you can carry tens of kilograms of rice. I know that's how it is. But a few days ago, I even gave birth for the Duong family. Just accept it for my happiness, anyway, it's also my love for you. Yes. If Mom said so, please give it to me. Thank you both for your kindness. Oh, no need to thank me. We are family, and I cherish you a lot. You are still young, but you will have to shoulder the responsibilities of our lineage in the future. I value you, so I must remind you that you need to be careful at home, especially with Grandma Hai. Though she seems harmless, she is very cautious. She is currently managing the Tran family, so she fears someone might take away her authority. Besides, she has no children, so she has nothing to lose. So, my husband is not born of Grandma Hai? No. Your husband is born of Grandma Ca. Then where is Grandma Ca? Grandma Ca has passed away. I see. Thank you for reminding me, but I don't think I have done anything wrong, so there's no need for me to be cautious of anyone. If family members have to be wary of each other, it'll be exhausting for everyone. Her father listened to her, feeling a bit unhappy inside but still appearing to be an understanding woman. It's good that you know. Rest now, I'll visit next time. Yes. Then mother will go. Okay. The woman looked at her father as she walked away, softly sighing and pondering. The phone suddenly rang at this moment, showing the number of Ms. Duong but was edited to display Mom instead. Hello. Have you arrived there, Nu? Why didn't you call me back? I was just about to call you. You're always calculating everything. What are you calculating so much for? So, how are things over there? It's okay, Mom. Behave properly, don't bring shame upon our family. Don't worry. You know my character. If you say so, I know so. But remember my advice. Oh right, that Duan is leaving for overseas tomorrow. Whenever you're free, bring your husband here to hang out. Seriously, taking care of a scatterbrained person must be exhausting. Considering speaking up to clarify the situation, she looked across to the window and saw Grandma ahead with the two behind them heading towards her room. Quickly, she informed Madame Duong, busy now. We can talk later. She hung up the phone just in time as Grandma reached the door. She instructed the two maids, move all of Miss Ca's belongings to Mr. Ka's room. Then, she told her, Grandma just checked the date. Today is perfect for rearranging the room. As for the wedding proposal, tomorrow our family will have a ceremony at their house and then fetch the parents here. In 2 days, there will be a wedding and family introduction. Fold it like this, Mom. What folding, dear? Didn't you hear what people said? Getting married means getting married right away. Yes. Now let's go to your husband and wife's room. Oh my, from childhood to adulthood, this is the first time I've seen this kind of wedding. Bringing the girl home for convenience, then decorate the room before the wedding is not even held for 2 days and 1 night like in the countryside. Everything is so peculiar. She was taken to a large room double the size of her room downstairs. Oh my goodness, she thought that room was already huge. This room must have swallowed up her entire house. The room was dominated by black and white tones, all furniture was made of exquisite carved wood, neatly arranged. There was a faint, special fragrance in the room. Everyone organized her belongings into a large wooden cabinet, and Mom nodded in approval. Fold it like this, Mom. What folding, dear? Didn't you hear what people said? Getting married means getting married right away. Yes. Now let's go to your husband and wife's room. Oh my, from childhood to adulthood, this is the first time I've seen this kind of wedding. Bringing the girl home for convenience, then decorate the room before the wedding is not even held for 2 days and 1 night like in the countryside. Everything is so peculiar. She was taken to a large room double the size of her room downstairs. Oh my goodness, she thought that room was already huge. This room must have swallowed up her entire house. The room was dominated by black and white tones. All furniture was made of exquisite carved wood, neatly arranged. There was a faint, special fragrance in the room. Everyone organized her belongings into a large wooden cabinet, and Mom nodded in approval. All belongings are still in their original places. Just added a wardrobe and a vanity table for the wife and daughter. Why did Mom think I have gone to work already? I came back to get some documents. Well, Mom and everyone, please excuse me for leaving first. He nodded, and everyone standing by him felt breathless. Seeing him walk in, she quickly turned around to avoid him. The air conditioner in the room was set at 23 degrees Celsius, but she felt her body was emitting hot steam, as if standing in front of a fire in the Journey to the West movie. He coldly spoke to her. You can stay here, but don't touch my things without permission, got it? Got it. All belongings are still in their original places. Just added a wardrobe and a vanity table for the wife and daughter. Why did Mom think I have gone to work already? I came back to get some documents. Well, Mom and everyone, please excuse me for leaving first. He nodded, and everyone standing by him felt breathless. Seeing him walk in, she quickly turned around to avoid him. The air conditioner in the room was set at 23 degrees Celsius, but she felt her body was emitting hot steam, as if standing in front of a fire in the Journey to the West movie. He coldly spoke to her. You can stay here, but don't touch my things without permission, got it? Got it. Okay. I know we got married, but there's no love between us, so it's good that you said that. Take care. Do you really think so? Stop pretending, what's the point? He didn't say anything else, turned around and walked away. She slightly pursed her lips and whispered softly, so arrogant. Thinking you're the only man in the world? Whoever loves you must be a fool. Ahihi. That afternoon after finishing lunch, around 2 o'clock, Mrs. Hai brought a woman about 70 years old, with golden skin and freckles on her face, a very serious expression, standing in front of her. Mrs. Hai said, Juan. This is Mrs. Cao, she is your grandmother's cousin and the one who will directly teach you the rituals to fit the position of Tran Jia's sister-in-law. She thought to herself, I have to learn rituals too. Juan? Mrs. Hai glanced at her, she startled, bowed her head and said. Hello Grandma Cao. I am very happy to receive your guidance. You looked at me from bottom to top and then top to bottom, and then nodded. Okay. I hope to learn well so you don't have to say much. I am old and don't like to talk much. No, Grandma Cao, you look very young. People in my hometown are much older at your age, she said with a smile. Seeing Grandma Cao's slight smile made my mother extremely pleased because she knew that Grandma Cao was very strict and difficult, she rarely smiled at anyone. Then she said, ask Aunt Cao to teach the child more. Tomorrow, we are having a wedding to introduce the family, right? So we have to go to the classroom now to be on time. Grandma Cao walked ahead, and she and my mother followed. My mother whispered to her, despite being serious, Grandma is very kind. Keep it up. Thank you, Mom. The ceremonial study room of the Tran Jia family is located at the end of the row of houses, a room of about 25 square meters, with a round table and chairs in the middle. On the table, there is an antique tea set and a plate of pastries. Mrs. Cao spoke sternly. People say learning manners, learning etiquette. To become Tran Jia's daughter-in-law, the lesson starts with how you sit, eat pastries, and drink tea like an upper-class lady. Sit there. She pulled a chair for her to sit down and continued, at Tran Jia's parties, the daughters-in-law usually wear gray flared dresses, so you need to keep your back straight, eyes unwavering, and sit down slowly. She tried to follow her instructions, imagining herself in a flared dress to do her best, but Mrs. Cao kept shaking her head, showing dissatisfaction. Her back felt like it was about to break in two, even more difficult than planting banana trees. Mrs. Sao kept explaining and pointing out her mistakes. Only after countless times of getting up and sitting down did she finally receive a nod of approval from Mrs. Sao. She continued, when holding a teacup, do not hook your finger through the handle, keep it straight to make your hand look longer and more elegant. When stirring with a spoon, do not touch the cup's edge, and do not stir in circles, follow a direction from 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock. Sit up straight, do not cross your legs tightly, but instead, cross them loosely to one side to create the illusion of longer legs. After listening attentively to her advice, she felt sleepy, but tried to hold the tea cup as instructed. The elder woman shook her head repeatedly, saying, no, hold it again. Still not right. Keep your fingers straight. Okay, sit up a bit straighter. She emphasized, those who enter the Tran family must understand that the higher one's social status, the more they must adhere to many intricate and strict etiquettes. Therefore, marrying into the family requires more than just being a good mother and devoted wife. One must continuously learn to adapt to high society. As a woman, one must pay attention to elegance, sophistication, and personal appearance. It is said that women represent the facade and dignity of men. For the dignity of their husbands, they must care about their outward appearance to make their husbands proud in front of their friends. Do you understand what I've been saying, dear? Yes, Grandma. I will remember and take in your teachings. All right. Less talk, more understanding, that's enough. Now continue studying until you become proficient. There's still a lot more to learn. Yes, Grandma. For the whole afternoon, Ko was taught etiquette by Grandma Sao until the sun began to set. She returned to her changing room, where Cuc was waiting for her at the door. Oh my goodness. I heard that you were learning etiquette. Grandma Hai told me to bring clothes for you to change and have dinner downstairs. Everyone must be at the dining hall by 6 p.m., all right. Thank you, Mom. But I'm in so much pain that my back feels like it's going to break. I just want to rest. No, you can't. You have to come down to eat dinner first, then you can do whatever you want. I know. You go down first and I'll follow. After changing clothes, stepping out to the door of the room, suddenly a hand tightly grasped her wrist. Startled, she turned around and saw Jia Long, smiling foolishly at her. Let's play hide and seek. Hey, let go of my hand, it hurts. In my opinion, we should play hide and seek, jump into the lotus pond, cool off in the pond, and then retrieve Juni's body. She furrowed her brows slightly and asked slowly. Who is Zak Juni? Zak Juni's death was tragic. With a sickly pale face, she would cry hysterically every night. Juni said she wanted to play with Jia Long. A gust of wind passed by, sending a chill down her spine. Before she could compose herself, her grandmother came forward and shouted loudly. Jia Long. Go back to the room with your mother. I'm not going back. I won't go back anywhere, go back to the room for your mother. Your mother will punish you now. Don't punish Jia Long. Jia Long promises to be obedient. Go to the room immediately. Saying that, he ran down the stairs, and Grandma smiled awkwardly at her. Don't pay too much attention to what she says. Her mind is not normal. Yes, Mother, she still had many doubts in her mind. Come down for dinner, the whole family is waiting. At dinner, Jia Min was absent, making Grandma anxious, constantly asking her mother about him. Have you told the kid that he needs to clean up his room tonight? Yes, I did. Then why hasn't he come back yet? He's probably busy, Mom. Later, she turned to her daughter. Ju-an. Have you called your husband yet? Yes, I have. Sister Ut, Jia Hung's wife, spoke up. Have you given your husband's number to her? Don't worry, Aunt. If she doesn't have it, I will ask Mom later. Jia Hung glanced at his wife, who smirked and turned her head away. After finishing the meal, everyone returned to their own rooms. Jia Hung told his wife, from now on, whatever happens between me and my sister-in-law, I think you should keep quiet. You know my personality already. I don't understand why you have to be like that. Mother has paved so many good paths for you, but you still don't know the way. Just watch your words, it might reach Grandma's ears. Grandma clearly favors you, and you are her grandson, too. Let's stop here. By the way, have you told Tran Tran about my engagement? How did you know? Did you sneak a peek at my messages? What is considered stealing when a husband and wife are together? Tell me. Tran Tran is my cousin and also your ex-girlfriend. There's nothing wrong with informing her. You even advised her to come back to the country for a celebration. Well, her return is a good thing. Think about it, she's now a big international star, intelligent, beautiful, and comes from a much better background than your current sister-in-law. Overall, they make a perfect match, and if she becomes the wife of the house, it will benefit our marriage. Forget about that thought. It's all in the past. It's been 4 years. The feelings won't be the same as before. You're not listening to the saying, old love doesn't cool down, it rekindles itself. Wait and see what happens. Really? You walk ahead, she smiles and follows behind. In Madam's room at the moment. See. Have you changed the bed sheets in the eldest son's room? Yes, Madam. Everything you instructed me to do has been completed. Good. Leave so I can talk to Madam Sao. Yes, Madam. CUC left, and Madam Sao asked. Starting the virginity test again? Madam replied with a smile to Madam Sao. Being a daughter-in-law of the Tran family cannot be taken lightly. And how is that little girl's etiquette study going, Sao? Well, if I'm being honest, considering her background, the girl indeed learns very quickly. But for a noble daughter, it's quite ordinary. The good thing is she studies diligently, listens well, and absorbs information quickly. It's been a while since I heard you praise someone. Seems like this kid is not bad. Why is there a lack of noble young ladies around here? What made her come here? Actually, it's a familiar place from the past. The family there is facing financial losses, so they send a message requesting. Invested. Partly due to the old affection, and also heard that their house had a new daughter, only 20 years old, a good match for Jia Long. The hostess wanted to marry Jia Long but was surprised that Jia Min agreed to. And looking at their ages, Jia Min is even a better match than Jia Long, so that's how it is. It's surprising that Jia Min from our family agreed to marry. Finally, the boy managed to escape from the shadow of Tran Tran. I don't know. I remember it used to be that he loved Tran Tran starting from gratitude and then turned into love. As for his current wife, I don't know how to explain it to understand, but I feel that that girl has something special and is attracting our Jia Min. Sigh. Love affairs of the young ones nowadays are very complicated. Well, let's just stand still and watch. They are all grown up now, they know how they feel inside. Now I just hope Jia Min will soon give me a grandchild to carry on my back. Only then will I be able to close my eyes in death. Horrible. We haven't even talked about life and death yet. I may be younger than you 10 years, but are you sure my health isn't as good as yours? They chatted about everything under the sun as if time had stood still. In Jia Min's room. She walked in to find him wearing a white towel around his waist coming out of the bathroom, her eyes widening at his solid six-pack abs peeking out from behind the towel, water droplets trickling down his hair adding to his allure. Immediately feeling embarrassed, she averted her gaze and stuttered, "When did you come back? Why are you covering your eyes like that? I'm your husband, no need to be ashamed. Sooner or later, everyone faces such moments." What moments are you talking about? I don't understand. If you let go, I'll show you. Playing innocent, huh? Listen to me mockingly, he said, causing her to release his hand, meeting his gaze directly and saying, "What do you think you have in this world?" He stared at her, "What?" Blushing, she bit her lip, smiled faintly, and slowly walked towards him, step by step, pushing her to the edge of the bed. Approaching the edge of the bed, Their faces were only about 5 centimeters apart, close enough to perceive each other's body scent, making her breathing more difficult, gradually feeling warmer all over, and her chest was heaving because her heart was beating very fast. She stammered, speaking word by word. What? What are you planning to do? What do you think I will do? Why is your face turning all red? She raised her hand to touch both of her cheeks. It's not red at all, is it? Are you embarrassed or afraid? I'm not afraid of him, nonsense. Or do you want us to go faster? Get out, you pervert. He smirked, then leaned to the left to grab the TV remote on the bed with his hand. She blinked, glancing at him, then let out a relieved breath. He turned back to her with a mocking smile, holding the remote control in front of her, and said, I just took the remote control, why are you so tense, honey? She clenched her lips tightly, stomped on his foot, then walked to the corner of the bed next to the dressing table. While walking, she muttered, crazy. After a while, he lied down to watch TV but kept changing channels, turning on channels without really paying attention. She curled up in a corner with her back to him, playing games on her phone to pass the time. Sometimes he glanced at her and sighed. Suddenly, they both turned to face each other, their hands placed on top of each other on a blanket. She quickly started to explain. I'm taking the blanket, it's cold. Okay. When she pulled the blanket towards her, he snatched it back. She frowned and said, let go. No, I won't. Then he quickly sat up, pulling her tightly into his embrace, causing her legs to spread apart. His lips curved into a sneer, making her feel extremely repulsed, as if he was mocking her. Shall we begin? He said coldly. She tried to push him away, but he held her even tighter. Don't forget today is our wedding night. Behave yourself a little. Oh my, is there any honeymoon like this? This is forced marriage, not a honeymoon. What kind of nonsense honeymoon is this, going into the room and looking at the daughter of others as if she's being discarded? She was very angry but tried to pretend it was normal. She clenched her lips and said, fine. Just do it so others can sleep. You want to sleep, right? Yeah. Take off your pants, do it quickly, and then go to sleep. She thought to herself, why is this crazy person so nonchalant? She trembled as she unbuttoned her shirt. After all, this was her first time in her life. She had to have some emotions. Moreover, it was the first time for someone she no longer loved. Seeing her awkward movements, he tore off her shirt forcefully. She looked regretfully at her shirt and then exclaimed, oh my God. This is the new shirt my mom just gave me. Now, either take off your pants yourself or let me tear them off. If you tear the shirt, then tear the pants off too. So irritating. He pushed her onto the bed and forcefully pulled off both her inside and outside pants, throwing them harshly onto the floor. She stared at him in disbelief, as his earlier words were spoken in anger, but she did not expect him to act so quickly and dangerously. His tall figure stood in front of her, the yellow light in the room illuminating his masculine and attractive face. His fair skin and red lips made up a perfect face that could drive any woman crazy. In the depths of her heart, she suddenly felt a slight tremor, and her body began to soften. Before she could react, he placed a kiss on her lips, making her startle. Initially showing resistance, she eventually responded by instinctively intertwining her tongue with his as his tongue slowly advanced into her mouth. One of her hands habitually rested on his waist. Quickly afterward, he forcefully spread her legs and thrust deeply inside, causing her to grimace in pain. Ouch, it hurts. He remained silent, continuing to thrust deeply, causing her unbearable pain. Suddenly, he stopped, his expression changing as he looked at her. Do you have a boyfriend? Are you crazy? I don't have a boyfriend. Please help me gently, I am in pain from my grandma's funeral at home. Stressing again, how old are you this year? 20 years old. After that, he didn't say anything else, his movements became a bit gentler. It took a long time before he stopped and let out a sigh, slowly releasing the liquid substance deep inside. He got up and went straight to the bathroom, she grimaced and moaned on the bed, lying down and muttering, "Oh my, it hurts like this. Why do people rush like that?" After seeing him step out of the bathroom, she also tried to get up to change clothes. Bending down to look at the bedspread, she exclaimed, "Blood?" He pretended not to care and then picked up a pair of shorts to put on in front of her. She asked him, both embarrassed and confused, "Hey, is there any other bedspread in the room?" "Just leave it there," he replied. He changed into a black dress shirt and white trousers before walking away. As he reached the door, he reminded her once more, "If you want to be happy, just leave it there." The door closed shut, leaving her staring blankly and beginning to think, could it be a test of virginity? "That's why I remembered the red bedspread this morning, but now it's white." She sighed lightly and then crawled down to the ground, her feet in 2 rows, each step difficult because the lower part of her body was still very painful and sore. Lying on the bed, she tossed and turned until 1 in the morning and still couldn't fall asleep, feeling as if she was expecting something and then asking herself, where did he go that he's not back yet? Then she reminded herself, why bother worrying about him? Sleeping alone is better for my health. Looking up at the ceiling, suddenly emotions surged within her. She missed her home, her parents, and even her little brother Ty. She missed the carefree and joyful days, the simple yet happy family meals. When will those beautiful days return, the days when life was poor but happy? Just 2 days away from home and she felt as if she had lived a whole lifetime, not knowing when she would have the chance to return and visit everyone again. Lost in thought, she didn't even know when she would set off. Early the next morning, she heard the sound of water running in the bathroom. She remembered that it was just the 2 of them in that room, but he had left at that moment and still hadn't returned by 1 a.m. Then, there was a knocking on the door from outside. "Sister, have you woken up yet?" It was Cuc's voice. She quickly replied, "Yes, I'm up. Please wait for me to open the door." She groggily got out of bed, still half asleep, and glanced out the window to see the sky just beginning to light up. She yawned and then opened the door for Cuc. "What's the matter that you're calling me so early, Cuc? Is it time for breakfast already?" Cuc chuckled and scratched her head. "Sorry for bothering you so early in the morning, sister. I feel awkward too. I brought the bedsheet to change early and took it to wash." She bent down to look at the red bedspread in her hand, knowing that Cu is trying to avoid. In fact, she wants to see if she is still in the clear or not. This must be her grandmother's fault. Knowing this, she didn't say much, just nodded yes, and that was it. After changing the bedspread, her husband stepped out of the bathroom, dressed neatly this time, in a very classy black suit, with a bright gold watch on his wrist. Seeing him appear in front of her made her wide awake, mouth agape. Cu knew he was interrupting and immediately asked for permission to leave. She asked him, "When will you be back? Is there something wrong?" "Oh, I was just wondering how I didn't know when you were coming back. Your sleeping face is no different from a pig, you wouldn't even know if the sky falls down. Hey, can't you say something nicer besides those words? Go change clothes. Just ask, get an answer. Now, are you changing clothes or not, tell me. Why? The sky is not completely bright yet. Go back to her house." She widened her eyes in surprise and asked again. "What did you just say? To my house?" "Yes. Is it really necessary to go?" While adjusting his tie, he paused and turned to look at her. "Don't you want to go to your house?" "No. Not really. I just haven't heard from my grandmother. I have made up my mind." "But, what else? Why all of a sudden do you want to go to my house?" "Think it through. After all, I am your family's son-in-law, at the very least, I should go and meet the relatives as is proper. You're so good, aren't you? So, you always thought I was a bad person?" "I didn't mean that." She hesitated to hear his seemingly determined words to leave. Now if he leaves, everything will be exposed. Her hands fumbled together, continuously thinking in her head, what to do now, what to do now. "I'll go downstairs and wait for you." Hold on, she hurriedly said. Or should I ask for permission from Grandma? Do you know where Grandma's room is? Just change clothes, then I'll ask for permission. Reluctantly, she nodded. While looking for clothes, she was worried. Oh my God. Nu, this time you've really messed it up. If Miss Duan hasn't left yet, you're in big trouble. If only I were sick right now. She paused and thought, yes, there is a way. She started to sit down, holding her stomach and calling out loudly for the girl named Cuc. Oh dear Cuc, help me. Can't reach her after a few calls. She remembered the girl is probably out washing clothes at this hour. She sighed, sitting still for a long while, until she heard footsteps approaching. Thinking it was her husband, she began to frown, holding her stomach with both hands, pretending to be in great pain. The door of the room opened. Before he looked around him spoke. Are you sleeping up here? Seeing that she was sitting down in a corner, he rushed over. This. What's wrong with you? I don't know why my stomach aches. Stomach ache. How can abdominal pain? Who knows? Go to bed and lie. Can't stand up. As fast as he lifted her up and hugged her, she widened her eyes and looked up at him. Her heart seemed to have a warm water flowing through, making her emotions hard to describe. He put her down on the bed and said coldly. Let me call a doctor for you. No. No need. Do you want to die that you don't need it? I'll rest for a while. I think I'm about to go to bed, make up some excuse. He was silent for a while then spoke. Okay. Rest, I'll take you back to your hometown when I have the chance. Your parents won't be here tomorrow anyway, thank you. He walked away. She breathed a sigh of relief. Actually, her conscience was somewhat troubled. Since she was little until now, this was the first time she had lied to someone. This lie was also related to human destiny and how long could it last. That day, after hearing that she had a stomach ache, all the formal lessons were postponed. For now, the focus was on her current health to prepare for the important day tomorrow. Hearing from Cuc in the morning, her grandmother had arranged for some people to come to the village to prepare for the ceremony and welcome her parents here. As for him, he was practically missing all day, not being at home. That evening at 9 o'clock. Knock, knock. Knock. Sister-in-law. Can I come in? The door is unlocked, just come in. Aunt from this house, named Lean, had a cup of ginger tea in her hand. Sister-in-law. Luckily you're not asleep. I heard you had a stomach ache, so I brought a cup of ginger tea. Thank you, Aunt Ut. I feel much better now. Just drink it to warm your stomach. Oh, Aunt, just leave it there and I'll drink it. So put it on the table, listen. Right, so older brother still hasn't returned? Yes, that's correct. He must be busy with something. It seems he went to the airport to pick up little Tran Tran. Who is Tran Tran? Oh, Tran Tran is your cousin, but she's also the ex-girlfriend of older brother. She covers her mouth as she speaks. Oh no. I've said too much again, please don't worry. I'm not worried. You think too much again, Grandma. Alright, Grandma, have a rest. After all, tomorrow is an important day for you. Go to bed early to look pretty. She nods. Thank you for the ginger tea, Grandma. Wife Jia Hung walks away, feeling very satisfied that she has finally conveyed the words she wanted to the person who needed to hear them. She thinks that, in a way, she caused her sister-in-law to think. In contrast to her thoughts, Nu, on the other hand, doesn't care at all, silently thinking, forget about their house, just go to sleep. Early the next morning, the Tran family's courtyard was bustling with footsteps. Hearing the noise, she opened her eyes and woke up. She looked up at the ceiling with half-closed eyes and remembered that today was the day of the wedding party. She sat up abruptly, her figure hurriedly pulling the curtain and looking down at the garden. The sound of hurried footsteps of the housekeepers, above and below, was also dozens of people. She turned around and saw him standing right in front of her, making her jump in surprise and instinctively let out a cry. Oh my God! He slightly furrowed his bushy eyebrows, his eyes looked straight at her and spoke. What are you looking around for? Is it your business? It's none of my business, But I'm looking at the clouds, the wind, the sky. What does it have to do with you? She pouted and walked over, nudging his shoulder, making him slightly uncomfortable. A moment later, 5 girls, each holding 5 white bridal dresses and 5 red AO dye, entered the room. She blinked her eyes in surprise at them. The housekeeper then walked in and spoke slowly. "First, Aunt, the old lady said we should bring the bridal gowns to see which one you like." She was stunned looking at each gown. Each gown was studded with pearls and sparkling crystals. She remembered that in her hometown, every bride on her wedding day had to rent a gown for a day at a wedding photo studio. How could a bride alone have 5 different gowns and AO dye like this? It was truly a noble family. Everything she did was special. She approached to observe each gown. Some were open-chested, some were open-backed, some were closed-backed, but overall they were all very beautiful. Oh my! She wanted to wear them all at once, not knowing which style would suit everyone. Glancing back and forth, she finally decided to choose the mermaid gown. Although it was a bit open-chested, it wasn't too revealing. Moreover, the dress was a tight fit that could perfectly accentuate her naturally S-shaped body. It was just too reasonable. She smiled and pointed. "I chose this dress." The housekeeper smiled and said, "The first wife really has a good eye. It is also very much to the old lady's liking." "Really?" He stood behind and glanced at the dress, then suddenly spoke. "Your taste is really bad. Change to another dress." She turned back and glared at him. "What?" "It's beautiful," I said. "Change." "Hey. Are you wearing it or am I? Look at me, I'm so handsome. Why do I have to go with an ugly person? How embarrassing." "You." Then he pointed to the AO dye. "Wear that AO dye." Vietnamese girls still look the most beautiful in AO dye. The housekeeper spoke up. "Sir. When meeting the family, you will wear an AO dye, and when organizing a party in front of guests, you will wear a bridal dress. So now, can everyone hear me?" "Yes. Let us bring the AO dye to the dressing room. The first wife will come and change there later." He hummed a few times and then everyone walked away. She looked at him with a pair of fiery eyes as if she wanted to burn him up immediately. "Angry enough to smoke? What are you looking at me with? Angry? Really angry? Who told you to marry me? You have to accept it." "Oh. I understand." She walked away angrily. He curled his lips and sneered, looking after her. Then she turned back, just in time to see him laughing at her, making her even angrier. He turned his smile back to a serious state, coughed a few times, and coldly said, "Why did you come back? Want to ask where the fitting room is?" "The room is at the end of the first floor stairs on the left." "Thank you." She deliberately dragged out the word "thank you." Going down to the fitting room, at the foot of the stairs, she met Tu's mother walking up. She bowed to her. "Hello, Mother Tuesday. Are you still not changing your clothes, Duan? The guests have arrived. And your parents are on their way from the hotel." "Yes, I'm going to change my clothes now, Mother Tuesday." "Hurry up." Entering the dressing room, there was a makeup artist and everyone was waiting for her. The housekeeper, "First wife, please go in and put on your makeup." The makeup artist, a girl about 30 years old, asked, "So this is first wife? I thought it was Miss Tran Tran. Help her make up beautifully." "Don't gossip," the housekeeper said. She heard Aunt Ut mention Tran Tran last night, and now the makeup artist mentioned her again. It seems that her popularity is very large. So Aunt Ut was right, she was her husband's ex. But never mind, she thought she didn't have to worry about it, old or new, she didn't care. The makeup artist complimented her while doing her makeup. "I've done makeup for almost all the ladies in the Tran family, but I have to admit that the eldest aunt's skin is the most beautiful. It's both white and pink and smooth like a baby's skin." "What brand of moisturizer do you use?" She happily replied, "You flatter me too much. I don't use any cream, I only use facial cleanser." She was about to say that the family didn't have the money to buy cosmetics, but then she remembered that she was transforming into Miss Duan. The eldest aunt is hiding her beauty secret again. "I'm telling you the truth." She smiled. "That's right, looking at the eldest aunt's beauty, she's so pretty. No wonder the eldest son agreed to marry her. I've always known that you're very picky, for years it's only been Miss Tran Tran. But I said it without any intention, don't be sad. I said that to let you know how important you are." "Hee hee. I know, because her face already had features. Simple makeup would make her stand out. Standing in front of the mirror, she couldn't even recognize herself. Oh my God, it was like she had transformed into a different person. She happily turned to thank the makeup artist. Everyone in the room, whoever took it, nodded their heads in praise. It must be said that she was extremely beautiful. Her lovely and pretty face, the AO dye that hugged her small waist accentuated her gentle and graceful appearance. Exactly the ideal daughter-in-law model in the eyes of mothers-in-law. About 15 minutes later, a tall woman walked into the room with her arm around a middle-aged man. It was none other than Mr. and Mrs. Duong. She was stunned and didn't have time to say anything when the old lady quickly ran over and hugged her. Oh my God, Duong. My dear daughter is so beautiful today. She smiled awkwardly and rubbed her back, then said softly, have your parents been here long? Mom and Dad came here yesterday but stayed at the hotel for comfort. As soon as they were picked up, they went to look for you. Does your daughter who got married far away know how much your mother loves her? Yes. Have you met everyone in the family yet? Oh. I met your grandmother but not your husband. Your grandmother is busy entertaining guests outside. As soon as she finished speaking, her husband walked in. Wearing a black suit, with a flower on his left chest. His neatly gelled hair further highlighted his broad, heroic forehead. When he entered, everyone looked at him with wide eyes. Mrs. Duong shook her arm. Who is this? My child, your husband. The grandparents looked at him in shock, then turned to look at her, as if they couldn't believe their ears. Her throat was muffled. Isn't it? He spoke. Duong. I'll take you out, she quickly said. These are your parents. Oh. Turns out it's my wife's parents. Say hello to my wife's parents. Before the grandparents could answer, he pulled her hand and walked in front of them. Excuse me. It's time. Although the grandparents had a lot to say, they had to try to hold back and swallow their questions. After all, there were a lot of people around, and this was their fault, so they couldn't let it out so easily. He held her hand and walked out to the main hall. It had only been a moment, but it was already very crowded outside. Judging by the way everyone was dressed, they seemed to be from the upper class. He held her hand through many people. Each step was a glance, weaving through the crowd and stopping in front of his grandmother. Today, she was wearing a purple velvet AO dye, with a green jade necklace around her neck. She looked at him and her, at their handshake, and nodded, expressing her satisfaction. Mrs. Sao, who was standing nearby, also had to look back, thinking to herself, they are indeed a beautiful couple. She lowered her head and said softly, Grandma. She smiled and said to her, you are very commendable. You are very beautiful today. Now, you two follow me inside to pay respect to the ancestors and then go over to greet and introduce yourself to the elders. Grandma walked first, she and her brother followed behind. Entering the ancestral hall, inside were already filled with elders, about a few dozen people. In the middle of the ancestral hall was the ancestral altar that looked very majestic. Grandma lit an incense stick and gave it to her and her brother. The two of them bowed their heads and bowed 3 times. Then she led her to each person to introduce them. Each person offered a cup of wine to greet them, wishing you two eternal happiness, wishing you two to soon have many children and grandchildren. Next year, give birth to a boy to continue the Tran family line. Everyone took turns giving the 2 red envelopes with good wishes. All the introduction ceremonies were over. She breathed a sigh of relief. Final. Hey. Where are you going again? Follow me and you'll know. Don't talk too much. Seeing that there were many people, she didn't want to argue, so she quietly followed him. If it were a normal day, she definitely wouldn't give in to any words. Entering the dressing room, he glanced at the makeup artist. She knew what to do and brought a large box in front of her and took out a white wedding dress. Her eyes widened at the exquisite beauty of the dress. It was even more beautiful than the dresses from this morning. What kind of style was it? It was closed but exposed. It was vague and indescribable. The flared hem of the dress was embroidered with beautiful small flowers. In short, it was extremely beautiful. He kept a serious expression and said, I didn't mean anything by it. But after thinking about it, you dressing well is also my pride, so I bought it for you. Get dressed quickly and go out, I'll wait outside. She smiled, her eyes almost filled with tears because of her emotion. The makeup artist said as she changed her dress. "It was the happiest thing, Auntie. Actually, you had to make the designer sew this dress for 2 days and 1 night to finish it. What did you say?" "It took 2 days and 1 night to finish one dress. It took all the efforts of famous wedding dress designers, Auntie." She smiled, suddenly feeling extremely happy. It seemed that he wasn't as bad as she thought. Standing to receive guests all morning made her legs feel like they were about to fall apart, feeling like she couldn't continue walking. During the wedding ceremony, there was a gift-giving session, and his aunts and uncles came up one by one to give gold as a gift with the thought of good luck. As for the owner Duong, to save face for their family, they boldly gave her a necklace. She was very beautiful today, so beautiful that everyone who came to attend the party had to praise her. He led her to each table to pour wine to receive the guests. He had drunk quite a lot since morning, making her feel the strong smell of expensive wine on his breath. However, his mind was still very clear. After toasting the relatives, he led her to a banquet table filled with his close friends from before, and there were also Americans. One of his friends spoke up to tease him. "This guy should drink less so he has the strength to drag his wife upstairs to have a sweet and affectionate time." He sipped his glass of wine and was about to speak when the housekeeper came over and said, "Young master. Outside, Miss Tran Tran wants to see you." "Tran Tran?" The housekeeper's words made the whole table stop and look at each other. Noticing everyone's bad expressions, she could somewhat guess the situation. She had also heard about the relationship between her husband and Tran Tran. But she didn't expect her to come on the day of the wedding. He glanced at her and said to the housekeeper, "No." As soon as he finished speaking, Tran Tran walked in from outside despite someone stopping her. She turned to look at the girl. Her body was sexy, her face was very attractive. She was holding a red gift box in her hand, the corner of her lips curled into a very natural smile. The girl's eyes glanced at him then glanced at her, and she said arrogantly, "I came to congratulate you and your husband." For now I'll just say this part for the next part. Subscribe to the channel and get notified from the next video. Thanks for listening. I wish everyone a refreshing day.